It was just past the end of summer when everything started. Those last few warm evenings before the Kentucky air began to cool, and the trees in Shelbyville hinted at turning gold. I'd been living in my house on the corner of Birchwood Drive for a little over a year. It wasn't anything fancy. 3 bedrooms, a small porch, a fenced-in backyard that backed up to a thin stretch of woods separating my neighborhood from the next. Like most suburban streets in Shelbyville, ours was lined with mailboxes leaning just a little, with driveways full of pickup trucks and sedans. People waved when you walked your dog. Porch lights clicked on at dusk. It was quiet in that way small-town suburbs always are. You can almost hear your own thoughts at night. I'd moved there from Louisville to get away from the noise. I wanted space. I wanted calm. For a while I thought I'd found it, but calm doesn't mean safe, and quiet doesn't mean empty. I learned that the hard way. The first thing I noticed was the sound. It was a Tuesday night in early September. The sun had gone down around 8, and I'd been sitting in my living room with the windows open, letting the last of the warm air drift through the screen. I was halfway through a movie when I heard it. A knock. Not on the front door, not on the back, but on the glass of my living room window. 3 quick taps. I froze, listening. I live alone. My driveway was empty except for my own car, and the nearest neighbor's house was far enough away that it would have been strange for them to come to the side of my house instead of knocking on the front door. I got up, trying to play it cool, and peeked through the blinds. Nothing. Just the side yard, the shadows of my fence, and the strip of woods beyond. I told myself it must have been a branch tapping against the glass. Still, when I sat back down, I locked the windows. The next night, it happened again. This time it was later, closer to midnight. I was in bed, scrolling through my phone, when I heard the same 3 taps. They came from the back of the house this time, from my bedroom window. My backyard was fenced, so unless someone had climbed over, it shouldn't have been possible. I pulled back the curtain fast, thinking I might catch whoever it was. But there was no one there. The motion sensor light didn't even come on. By Friday, the taps had escalated. They weren't always at night. Once, I heard them in the middle of the afternoon while I was making coffee. I rushed to the kitchen window and swore I saw something. A shadow just at the edge of my yard, slipping into the trees. It was human-shaped, but not quite right. The proportions seemed off. Too tall, too narrow. But it moved fast, vanishing before I could blink. I stood there with my coffee cup trembling in my hand, trying to rationalize it. Maybe it was one of the neighbor's kids. Maybe someone was playing a prank. I even walked the fence line to see if there was a gap. There wasn't. By the end of the week, I'd convinced myself it was nothing. Shelbyville wasn't the kind of place where strange things happened. We had farmers markets, high school football games, and small-town gossip. Not ghost stories. But that weekend changed everything. It was Saturday night, just after 9. I'd been in the garage, digging through boxes for my camping gear. The air smelled faintly of cut grass from someone mowing earlier in the day, and crickets chirped in the distance. My garage door was open to let in some air. That's when I heard footsteps, slow, deliberate, on my driveway. I turned, expecting to see a neighbor walking up. Instead, there was a figure standing just beyond the yellow wash of my porch light. At first, I thought it was a man, but the longer I looked, the less sure I was. His head seemed slightly tilted, as though studying me, and his arms hung stiffly at his sides. He didn't move, didn't say a word. I called out, "Hey, can I help you?" But my voice sounded too loud in the stillness. The figure took one step forward into the light, and I swear my stomach dropped. His face, if you could call it that, was pale, almost gray, with features blurred like a photograph out of focus. His eyes were dark hollows. Before I could react, he stepped backward into the shadows and was gone. I shut the garage door so fast I nearly caught my foot. I spent the rest of the night pacing the house, every light on, checking each lock twice. I barely slept. The next few days were worse. The taps on the windows returned, sometimes at random intervals, sometimes in patterns. 2 taps, a pause, then 3 more. Once, while I was in the shower, I heard the bathroom window rattle like someone was trying to pry it open. When I yanked back the curtain, dripping water onto the floor, I saw nothing but condensation on the glass. That night, I woke up to the sound of my backyard gate creaking open. I grabbed a flashlight and ran outside, but the gate was swinging gently in the wind. The lock was still latched. From that point on, sleep became impossible. I started staying up late, dozing on the couch with the TV on for background noise. That's how I caught the first clear glimpse. It was Thursday, about 2:45 a.m. I'd been half asleep when my living room motion light clicked on outside. Through the curtains, I could see a shadow moving along the fence. I grabbed my phone and crept to the window, pulling the curtain back just enough to see. It was the same figure from the driveway. Tall, thin, wrong. Only this time, it was closer, standing right at the edge of my porch, head tilted like before. But instead of staying still, it began walking slowly around the house, dragging one hand along the siding. The sound of its fingernails, or claws, scraping the wood made my skin crawl. I didn't move until it disappeared into the dark. By then, I was desperate. I called the police the next morning, explaining that someone had been trespassing repeatedly. They sent a patrol car that evening. The officer, a middle-aged guy with a tired face, walked the property with me, shining his flashlight along the fence. No footprints, no signs of forced entry. He told me to keep my doors locked and call if I saw the person again. I could tell by his tone he thought I was imagining things. That night, the thing proved him wrong. I was in the kitchen making tea when I heard the sound of glass breaking upstairs. My stomach twisted. I grabbed the heaviest thing within reach, a cast iron skillet, and crept up the stairs. The sound had come from the guest bedroom. The door was half open. Inside, the lamp on the nightstand was smashed on the floor. And standing in the far corner was the figure, its gray skin catching just enough light for me to see its mouth. A long, unnatural grin stretching wider than it should have. I froze. It took one step toward me, then another, its movements jerky but fast. I slammed the door and ran, heart pounding, down the stairs and out the front door into the cool Kentucky night. I didn't stop until I was in my car, engine running, pulling out of the driveway. I stayed at a motel off Interstate 64 for 2 nights. When I came back on Sunday afternoon, the house was silent. Everything looked untouched, except for one thing. Every single mirror in the house was cracked, like someone had pressed a finger into the glass until it splintered. I didn't have many mirrors, just a bathroom mirror, a small one in my bedroom, and a decorative one in the hallway. But each had the same circular crack in the center. That was a month ago. I still live here because I can't afford to move, but things haven't stopped. The taps on the windows come almost every night now. Sometimes in the dead hours before dawn, I hear footsteps pacing the hallway outside my bedroom. The breathing has returned too, closer than before. And every so often, I catch a glimpse in the corner of my eye. Tall, thin, head tilted, watching me from just beyond the glow of my porch light. I've stopped opening the curtains after dark. I've stopped turning off the lights. But the worst part? Last night, as I was lying in bed, I felt something cold press against my hand. I didn't look. I couldn't. But I know, deep down, it wasn't my imagination. Whatever it is, it's not leaving. And I don't think it ever will.